Welcome back to another Pen Talk. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for finding my channel among the many. I hope you enjoy my exploration of the wide world of pens. And we see in front of you a package, a label you may not recognize, but when we look at the tape that's used, I'm pretty certain you'll recognize it. Yes, it's a package from Bienni. I bought some Pen BBS pens on Etsy. They arrived in 26 days, which was pretty good. Took them a while to get out of China, but once they left China and reached the United States, they were in my hands in less than a week, which is pretty good. So we're going to just use this knife, open up the package, and show you what's inside. Much to my pleasure, no packing materials. We just had the two Pen BBS pen boxes in that box. Very nicely done, very efficient. So this is a packaging system that Pen BBS has used for a long time. So we have here the 2499 models that I purchased, 87 in shadow, and 125, which they call the gold plating diamond moire pattern. Very interesting. Of course, there's a lot of labeling made in China, as apparently is required on anything. Without further ado, let's look at these pens. Well, we would be remiss if we would not have these two pens on a turntable held up by crabs. And they are heavy pens, so you can hear the turntable struggling to turn with the weight of the pens, but the crabs are strong and have no problem holding up these fairly interesting looking pens. Certainly somewhat of a diversion from other Pen BBS designs, and we'll go through those differences in detail as we explore these two pens. Here's the listing on Etsy. I searched eBay and AliExpress and Tobu Focus, and I couldn't find the pen any other place. So it looks like Etsy is the only place, and there are 3 models available, and I chose these 2 out of the 3, and I'm very happy with my choices. And hopefully you will enjoy looking at them. And the light plays on that very substantial gold plating over a very substantial metal pen. Let's take a look at some details. And we're going to let the crabs spin around, give you a wink. Mr. Sizemore saying, I like the pens. Maybe you will too. So let's look at the shadow model, which shows off, I think, some of the details a little bit cleaner because you have the contrast between the shiny gold plating and this very nice matte black finish. Your classic sword clip, that's the same. They've been using it for a while. Very stiff but functional, easy to get over a fabric. We have a new finial at the top of the cap with the letter P in it, which could be like the beginning of Pen BBS. If we go to the cap band, we'll see the standard Pen BBS engraving, and there's a little logo. And if we flip it around, we see the model number, which I really appreciate that they've done that. You know, how many times have those of us in the vintage market had a very difficult time figuring out what model of pen we might have? Pen BBS will make it easy for us 100 years from now. You go to the bottom of the pen, and it's just a flat finial, rounded edges to it, nice design, and we'll understand why that is designed like that once we uncap it. It's a pull-off cap, and it takes a pretty good amount of effort to pull it off. And we see a metal section the standard Pen BBS fine nib. We'll see how it writes. But you'll see there's a design there at the end of the section, which is similar as to the end of the barrel, which facilitates posting. At least that's what we think. Yep, it posts very nicely. It doesn't click to post like I thought it might, but this is a fairly heavy pen and not a pen I would post. As you can see, it grows in length substantially, and that cap is not light. The balance isn't as bad as you might think, but I think I definitely prefer this unposted. It fits well in the hand, as you can see. That section is a nice size. Pen BBS has always had a nice size section. It is a little slippery, even though it does have that interesting pattern engraved into the section, a nice flare out at the end so you know when you're getting down near the end. And there's really nothing to fear on that. Step up, you can feel that it's there, but it's not going to interfere, and who would want to hold it that far away from the nib? At least not I. Let's take a quick look at the details on the gold one. We've darkened the room to bring in the LED to look inside the barrel. Yes, definitely brass in there, nice threads. PenBBS has always been very good with their threading. If we look inside the cap, we'll see what we expect is a nice contiguous large cap liner there, which facilitates capping and posting, and also hopefully should keep that nib from drying out. Again, I just really appreciate their engineering, design, execution, and this pen is typical of the quality that they do. This is certainly, I think, a big departure for PenBBS. A glittery pen. I would say more common with a lot of other Chinese pen designs. And also a number of very collectible vintage pens have a type of a pattern like this, but of course they use gold-filled material, not plated brass. Same cap finial, same clip, same cap band, which is really just an extension of the cap. That pattern is consistent, it's nice, it feels good in the hand, and the same finial at the end of the barrel. A pull-off cap, and again, you need to put some effort into pulling it off. That same nib and same section as we saw on the black and gold pen is on this all gold pen. So let me show you one of the challenges. When I first got this pen, I didn't know whether it was a pull-off or unscrew, so I started to unscrew it. And yes, you can unscrew the barrel if you don't pull off the cap. Design issue? Nah, just something you need to be aware of. I think once you realize it's a pull-off cap, you're not going to do that again. It only happened to me the first time I got the pen. You know what the filling system is. It's a converter and could possibly fit in a cartridge, but I'll let other people discuss the cartridge options. And this is a very tight fit for this converter. It takes a little bit of effort to get it out. I generally turn it and pull. Yeah, I'm going to have to do that off camera, but you can see they've already lubricated inside there. You can see the little line there that indicates maybe some silicone gel. They just pull the converter straight out. Yeah, again, standard PenBBS converter, at least they've gotten rid of that spring on the inside, which is something that used to bug me, and a nice little insert there that fits well inside the section. Again, very sturdy. And as we know from PenBBS, if you unscrew the nib, you'll see the nib assembly in a clear collar. And I think they've upgraded the collar, at least the material there, because the older ones had a tendency to crack. Didn't really stop their function, but you know, if you had a clear pen, you could see those cracks in this nib collar. And the standard 2 O-rings, one at the bottom and one at the top where the threads are. And I'm certain the nib just pulls out, but I'm in no mood to try to pull out that gold nib. Well, we'll see how this one writes. So let's explore the nib assembly that's in the 499s with an older nib assembly. You can see how those cracks have developed. The other thing you'll notice is this end has a little slant to it, and the new one just has a slot in it, 2 slots on either side. So it's definitely a different nib collar, probably easily interchangeable with the original ones. Unfortunately, I could not pull out the nib and feed in either of these 499s, and I used as much pressure as I felt was appropriate. And I think the feed is slightly different. Maybe those fins are slightly thicker, but not a significant change. PenBBS has really stuck by this feed design since the beginning. It does provide a good flow of ink to the nib, and yes, we need to straighten and align that nib with the feed. So how does the 499 fit up size-wise with some other PenBBS models? Well, I assembled these four for various reasons. One, they all have different treatments to the trim. This is a shiny gold. Here's a matte gold and a 456 vermouth. Here's a matte silver and a 380 twist aluminum pen, so 2 metal pens. And here's a shiny chrome silver colored 355. And you can see the 499 I think is a good size pen, but so are these. PenBBS does make good size pens, fit in the hand well and write well. Some examples. The other thing is many PenBBS models are not good posters, and these 3 are examples of that. They do post, and it's fairly secure, but the pen is very, very long and kind of unwieldy. The 456 is one of the better posters, along with the 308 and the 480. So that's how they work. Let's zoom in a little bit on those sections because these are all quite different. These also have different type nibs. Here's your 2-tone gold and rhodium. Here's your 2-tone rhodium and gold. Solid gold color. And a solid silver. This is a medium round. As you can see, it certainly is engraved differently than the other ones, which I would call more of your standard fine, with a slight upturn. Not really a fude, almost like a little bit of an architect, but an interesting grind. And the new 499 is just a latest example of that. It writes very, very well. These sections are all very comfortable, but a little bit different in design, but still follow the same design concepts of a little bit concave, a little bit of a narrowing as you get towards the nib, and then a flare out at the end so you know where your fingers are. Those sections are all extremely comfortable, easy to write with. For long sessions, I enjoy writing with my PenBBS pens. If you've seen my other videos, you know that I flush my nibs and feeds whenever I get them, be they old, be they new pens. And I saw somebody actually do this. So I've had this bulb syringe for a while, but that small opening didn't quite fit many things, but here it fits extremely well on that nib at the end of this nib collar. And it's hard to do over the camera. And now we can put the soapy water, little drops of detergent in there, and it'll flush through that nib and feed, removing any potential impurities, oils, and also, as we know, this type of soapy detergent acts as a lubricant, so when we do finally ink up the pen, whatever's left in there is going to facilitate the inking. So what ink to put in? Well, this one called out to me. Haven't used it much. Nice 15 milliliter sample bottle. You get 3 of them in a box, at least that's what I did, and I bought 2 boxes. The color card just shows a real black, I would call it more of a charcoal color. You know, it's not pitch black, it's not Heart of Darkness, but it is in the black family. And the chromatography shows it's black because it's just a combination of a lot of colors. There does seem to be some water resistance, so that's nice. And yeah, that blotch got kind of big, but let's see how it works in the pen and the nib. I got a fairly full fill. I did my 3 times up and down, and we're going to see how it writes. And as usual with this metal section, one advantage is the ink comes off very easily. So now let's do some editorial comments, talk about the dimensions of the pen, and we'll revisit the writing. You got a little bit of a sample in the beginning of the video. Hopefully that was enough of a teaser to have you continue on watching to the end. So the first thing you notice is you pick up the pen, it has some heft and weight to it. It's over 40 grams. This is, I think, one of the main first pop-off cap that's in a standard production pen. I think they did an excellent job with it, as Pen BBS does with all their designs. Fits well in the hand. We'll give you those dimensions of the pen. It also feels good in the hand. Like I said, it's a little slippery, but certainly not unusable. And that section's a decent size. We'll give you those dimensions of the section. And this is a pen I would definitely write with unposted, even though, as we saw, you can post it if you want to, but it's going to affect and change the writing. And certainly over the camera tripod, it will not work. This is a very pleasant nib to write with. I've really enjoyed the last couple Pen BBS pens that I've gotten with this standard nib. Originally, when I looked at it, I didn't think it was the same type of upturn, but I looked at it under a loop, and they're all very, very similar. And I think it's actually a little bit of a grinding being done there, something that they took to another level with their calligraphy nibs, but rather than spending the money for the calligraphy nib, I think this nib is an extremely good writer. And yes, it was a little bit dry because I've had the cap off for a while, but as you saw, a little bit of writing, that flow returned to normal very quickly. I thought I'd give you a quick view of writing with this pen, the Year of the Ox, which I really enjoyed. And this has the same style of a fine nib. And I think Pen BBS has really moved this nib design into a whole nother level. Consistency is great. This has a Pen BBS ink in it, number 512, which is just a really nice blue, but these nibs are great. The 499 nib is just slightly better, but both of them are very enjoyable to write with. Now that you've seen both of these nibs write, I figured a little bit of a close-up would be nice. Certainly shows some of the unique design characteristics that they put on to label their nibs. And you can see how that tipping material is done very, very nicely. And yes, I do get ink on my fingers. And they are consistent. Just really two excellent examples of the nibs that Pen BBS puts on their pens. I think we need to rate this pen, and I'm going to give it a 9.8. I give it 2 checks for design and build and construction, and it's just done well. And I certainly love a black and gold pen, and I love that matte black finish. Very consistent, looks good in the hand, feels good in the hand. Yeah, and the nib gets 2 checks because it's a very nice nib, very easy to write with. And I give Pen BBS 1 check for doing something different. Is this my favorite metal pen? I'd have to admit no. Could it become one of my favorites? Yes, it could. That's why I put a black ink in it, because I have a lot of uses for nibs like this that with a black ink in, when I'm out taking notes, and sometimes I'm on paper, which is not the best quality. So I think this nib will perform very, very well for that use case. So hopefully you've enjoyed looking at these two new pens from Pen BBS. I certainly have. I'm glad I had an opportunity to show them to you. I'd like to thank all of you for watching. Hope this video finds all of you safe, healthy, and happy, enjoying your pens, putting ink on paper. It's just a great feeling, great sensation, and the fact that you can put marks down on a paper that can be interpreted by many people. What a good way to share your thoughts, get your thoughts on paper, share them with yourself later in a journal. Also works very, very well. We've reached the end of this video, and we're going to say bye. See you later.